Welcome to Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. Join Toby Malone and TJ Young, along with some special friends, as we puzzle our way through what we once thought was an unreadable book to produce a surprisingly listenable podcast. Welcome to a bonus episode of Wake, the podcast that thunders, blunders, and over-unders its way towards fulfilling a long-held bucket list item, reading James Joyce's Finnegans Wake out loud just once. I'm your host, Toby Malone, all by myself today to introduce this bonus episode. So in our last go-around that came out this week, our great friend Lucy Brazier joined us to begin Book 3, where we enjoyed the lascivious tale of the Aunt and the Grace Hopper. Importantly, though, that episode included the final two so-called Thunderwords of Finnegans Wake, meaning we've now spoken all 10 of these words, which are all at least 100 letters long and compiled of words from across dozens of languages and meanings. Now, at the beginning of this podcast, if you'll cast your mind back 6 months, you'll remember that I had, without any confidence, said, there are 4 of these long words in there. I don't know what that's about. I didn't know anything about the term Thunderwords, which is very universally known. This is because we don't do the research that maybe we should. And obviously there's more than 4. We hadn't really done any work into what it was. And like we continue to say, this podcast isn't about giving you that in-depth kind of analysis. But I thought it is kind of important to note the role of these Thunderwords. They are the oddity of Finnegans Wake. People remember that. As I said, this is printed on the front cover of the Penguin Modern Classics edition that we read from. So it is the remarkable thing. And if you ever want to show someone something interesting from Finnegans Wake, generally the Thunderwords are where you'll start. So there are other resources out there that do analyze these Thunderwords. What I wanted to do today is just give you like a little 10-minute introduction, break down what each one of them means just in very, very broad terms based on other people's research, and then we're going to play all 10 Thunderwords back to back to back to back to back all the way through. If that doesn't sound like your jam, well, I mean, why are you here? I think this is exactly what we're doing, is just getting a chance to hear these all together. It forms a kind of cacophony that is really something to take on. There are other resources, as I said. There's a website called Joyce Geek, who does a good job putting things together, breaking things down, and he does a lot of pronunciation, helping you with the pronunciation thing. Clearly, I have not watched all of his stuff because my pronunciation's all over the place sometimes, but that is out there, and I'll link that in the show notes. The most famous approaches to the Thunderwords are Canadian. My fellow countrymen, one of the most famous professors who taught at my alma mater, the University of Toronto, Marshall McLuhan, was a notorious Joyce fanatic, and he used to annotate his editions like crazy, and he had lots of different opinions and approaches to Finnegans Wake, including the Thunderwords. And I like this quote here from him, where he says that each of these Thunderwords is a cryptogram or codified explanation of the thundering and reverberating consequences of the major technological changes in all human history. And then this is the best bit, when he says, when a tribal man hears thunder, he says, "What did he say that time?" as automatically as we say Gesundheit. So I love the idea that McLuhan is taking us back to a pre-historic perspective where a caveman, a tribal man, someone hears the thunder and doesn't just take it as a natural occurrence, but hears it as a giant booming voice from above that means something or other, and the interpretation. Obviously, there's nothing to interpret, but Joyce has taken this as an opportunity to give something as an interpretation. On the resource Finnegans Web, this was a useful way in. It says that Joyce described the book as a downward parabola into sleep, or as a tunnel going through a mountain. As HCE moves through the dream, the Thunderwords track his movement. There are 10 Thunderwords, the first 9 of 100 letters each, the last of 101, for a total of 1001. Tales of 1001 nights, appropriate for this book of sleep. Then McLuhan's son, Eric, wrote a very well-regarded book in 1997 called The Roll of Thunder in Finnegans Wake, and roll being R-O-L-E. But obviously he knows how to pun because he's a Joyce scholar, so the role of thunder. And he spends this whole book unraveling each of the thunder words to figure out what it is. He says, it took months of concentrated effort to begin to winkle out the thousands of words in the thunders. Now, several of them have yielded 30 or more pages of words, each word denoting or alluding to a theme in the episode or an associated technology. Prior to our discovery of the thunders and their significance, Marshall McLuhan looked up to Joyce as a writer and artist of encyclopedic wisdom and eloquence unparalleled in our time. After, he recognized in Joyce the prescient explorer, one who used patterns of a linguistic energy to discern the patterns of culture and society and technology. It's really a way of plumbing the depths of Joyce's genius to unravel some of these things. Our friend Neil has spoken often of his friend who spent an entire career on 8 pages of the Night Lessons episode. McLuhan spent a great deal of his time unraveling these thunder words in the same kind of way, and it is kind of bottomless because I think we talked about how in the Anna Livia chapter there are references to many hundreds of rivers and bodies of water, and then readers went and found many hundreds more. So you can really take from it what you will, and I think Joyce would be thrilled with that. And then finally, I wanted to just point you to a reference that hasn't been updated in nearly a decade, but it is quite useful. It's called The Hatter's Cabinet, that has a page all about the thunder words. The writer here talks about how that like I've said already, the thunder is the only aspect of the real world of the dreamer to appear in the book. A thunderstorm while he's dreaming, the thunder cracks makes its way into a dream, which I think is really tangible. It's really easy to get hold of, but it's also, as he says, they mark epochal moments in the dream. So there are 10 of them. And I just wanted to summarize each of these a little bit as we go. I thought about incorporating a description before each thunder word, but then I think it sounds nicer if we just hit them all back to back to back. So I just wanted to give a summary here, which so I'll make sure that I give page numbers and the reference, and then just a little bit of context that comes from this Hatter's Cabinet, as well as the resource that the Hatter's Cabinet uses, which is based on a monograph written by a scholar named Bernard Benstock in 1965 called Finnegans Wake, an analysis of Finnegans Wake. So he uses this resource to break down some of the thunder words. So I'll help describe that by using that resource as well. The first thunder word we come across is on page 3, between lines 15 and 17 in chapter 1:1. And this first thunderclap is the basic fall motive, and as we've talked about, this incorporates dozens of different uses of the word thunder from around the world in lots of different languages. The second is the slamming of Jarl von Huther's castle door. This happens on page 23 between lines 5 and 7 in chapter 1:1. Again, more thunder sounds from other languages from around the world: Romanian, Icelandic, Albanian, Arabic, lots of different kinds of things. The third announces the ballad written by Hosti, and this is this amazing one on page 44 between 20 and 21 in chapter 1:2. This is the sound of the applause that leads into the singing of the ballad of Percy O'Reilly, and so we have all of these different words that mean clap, 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 clap as we go before we hear the song. The fourth is an obscene rumble during the trial, suggesting the fall in the park. This one's kind of a troubling one. So this is the kind of thing that is said by the crowd as they're reacting to the information during the trial. And this is many, many words that mean whore. This is on page 90 between 31 and 33 in chapter 1:4, if you're following along. So lots of different things that mean whore or prostitute. That is obviously a moral judgment in this trial. The fifth occurs on page 113 between lines 9 and 11 in chapter 1:5. This is the babble of the gossipy letter. So as the letter is being described, there's lots of different kinds of things that are happening inside of the letter or inside of those talking about the letter. This is the one that I heard Richard Hart perform just recently, and he did it so subtly that no one in the room even knew a thunder word had been spoken. It was really quite brilliant. The sixth one happens on page 257 between lines 27 and 28. This is the sixth. There's the slamming of the earwicker door after the children have come in from their play. And so we have this amazing word that is the words for shut the door in all these different kinds of language, or the sound of slamming, so the big slam of the door. The seventh, on page 314, between lines 8 and 9, records the din in the tavern as Ewica's reputation takes a fall, and Finnegan is again heard toppling from his scaffold. So this is lots of different kinds of sounds here, and Humpty Dumpty is mentioned in here. The fall and the fall from the lazy from his wall happens here. The eighth one is the noise of radio static preceding the Crimean War broadcast. Benstock also says that it's the sound of the orgasm during the seduction of Anna Livia, which, is news to me. This is on page 332 between lines 5 and 7. And there's lots of different sounds that designate that sound of static. On page 414, between lines 19 and 20, is the ninth Thunderwords, Sean's cough, as he clears his throat in preparation for the recounting of the Aunt and Grace Hopper fable. So we have this great word with many, many words from around the world meaning cough, 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 cough. So he is clearing his throat. I don't know if I unpacked that during the episode when we read it last time, but I love that. That's really fun. And then the last follows soon after, Sean's angry rumble of abuse against Shem, serving as the basic thunderclap of destruction before the Kabbalistic regeneration begins. That's on page 424 between lines 20 and 22 in chapter 3.1. And that's the one that incorporates all of the Norse mythology, all the references to Midgard and Fenrir and Odin, Grimnir, things like that, Mjolnir, Thor's, and all those guys. So lots of different kinds of things. And at the end of speaking that word, Shem replies, "The 100-lettered name again, last word of perfect language. But you could come near it, we do suppose, strong Sean. Oh, we foresupposed." How? Shem mocking Sean because he gets it wrong. He says the thunder word, but he has 101 letters. But of course takes us to the 1001 Nights. So it's by design, but it's also a mistake on Sean's part. So that is all 10 Thunderwords as described. I know it's not necessarily an easy thing to hear the descriptions first and then hear the Thunderwords, but I felt like this was the best way in. So let's hear these Thunderwords. There won't be any more commentary after this, but I want to really direct you to our Patreon to see our show notes. All of this stuff will be there in the show notes to get a little bit more context. And if you feel like it, giving us a rating on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify really helps, and a review if you like. We really love our listeners, and we'd love to continue to engage with you. So for the next 5 minutes or so, you're going to hear a supercut of all of the Thunderwords as spoken in previous episodes of Wake. So there has been no adjustment. You'll hear our signature explosion sound in between each Thunderword, which I thought was appropriate. And we're going to go through 1 to 10 in order. And now, without further ado, Finnegans Wake.
Ba 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 dal gar gar taka minara krn con bron ton ron tudron thrun truvar huna aunska skaun tu hu drndu thernuk Perkon hux kron bar grubru gok gor leor gom gremet gehund herth ruma thunna udadilili feiti tilli bumul kun klidon kun. Click, 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 clopads, click, clutch, clabata, crepri, croppy, gradang, sammy, hanui, at a proprietary, apple, daddy, pecan, cider, pink, cut. Blad yuck foul Morkelenberg Wura Hora Escorta Strumpa Porna Nelly Coxa Patti Patta Putta Patter Trip Paka Panisek thing, crookling, X in every posture's X dicks liken him around hearst the magger by can, with down mind looking ated. Look at the door and done a duraskew de loo shoe fermoy porter tui rezui svalnan bort and sport kohau cansa croid verge capac capuk. Both old chorectors shummin around gan summin numinar drum trummin a humpta dumpta wall to poof ul durera monster nip. Papa rakasarana ragil lakanatul dan mungan mac whack fall their devil on the double and daddy doodled. Hustin, caffin, coffin, tossum, damon, damma, cossag, kusag, ho, bix, hatux, pex, word, beck, oz, cashel, carat. Hold turden weir mudguard gring nerd derm molnir finrear looky loki bogman dod rare insert crin mcgurn rackin a rocka.
And there you have it. 10 Thunderwords, 1001 letters, as the dreamer dreams on. That's all the time we have this week for our bonus episode of Wake. I've been Toby Malone, and I'll see you next week along with TJ Young as we churn our way through Book 3. See you then, ba dal gar taka minnaron con abron toneron tuon theron trarvar huna waskaun tu hu nerder dern thucker nookologists. This has been Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. If you've made it this far, thank you for your dedication. Join us next week for another segment of Finnegans Wake and a chat about what we've found. Wake is a Moon Street Media podcast, engineered by TJ Young and Toby Malone. Our theme song is The Ballad of Percy O'Reilly, arranged and performed by Meg Logue after James Joyce. Wake is recorded in Canada, where Finnegans Wake is in the public domain. For community and bonus content, join us at our free Patreon at patreon.com/wakepod. If you have questions about Finnegans Wake, don't ask us. We're just as confused as you are. See you next week.